The world needs more weird people. Now, that might sound a little strange because being weird's a bad thing, right? We certainly see it that way. So why do I think you should be weird? Well, before I can answer that, I want to define what I mean by weird. Like, what does it mean to be weird? So, the definition I'm using here when I say more people need to be weird is essentially anything that falls outside the range of normality. So you have a range where things are considered normal. If you go outside of that one way, that's weird. Go outside another way, that's weird. This could be a lot of things. This could be an outfit. It could be an interest. It could be even a combination of foods. But most importantly, it could be a belief. You could have a weird belief. Something about your personality or the way you think can make you weird. And using this definition, we can pretty much say that anything that's normal has a weird counterpart, and vice versa. And this is seen as a bad thing a lot of the time. Being weird has this negative connotation, like you shouldn't be weird. Like if something's negative, a lot of times you'll say like, that's weird, I don't like that, you know? So why is it important that we're weird? Well, there are a few reasons. First of all, everyone is weird. There is something about everyone, every single person, that falls outside of that range. No one is going to be completely 100% normal. And that's not a bad thing. That's a really good thing for a number of reasons. The only reason we have this idea of a normal person is because we can change things about ourselves. We can mask certain parts of ourselves, we can dial certain things back, we can emphasize certain things, so we can fit in that range. Because everyone has something that's outside of that range, right? But that's okay, because you can just adjust it. You can make it fit in that range. And you're avoiding scrutiny, right? You'd think you're avoiding the detrimental effects of being weird. And this is a really common habit. I think it's a bad habit, but it's really common. I mean, I do this. I certainly used to do this, and I'm sure whoever's watching this does it too. And I have a little personal story that I think really emphasizes how bad this can be for people, how bad of a habit this can be. I have put on a coat because it got cold. So the experience I have with this that I think really emphasizes how bad of a habit this can be starts from homeschool, because I was homeschooled from 5th all the way to pretty much 9th grade. There's a little wiggle room there because of some weird stuff that happened, but yeah, pretty much 5th all the way to 9th grade. So that means I'm starting high school. I'm going back into public high school as a sophomore. I'm not starting as a freshman. I'm going back in as a sophomore, which I am right now. And on that first day, those first few weeks even, it felt so strange. It felt so different from how I was when I was homeschooled. I felt like I had to conform to these new pressures because I was homeschooled. While I was homeschooled, I didn't have to fit in. I was at home and I could pretty much do whatever I wanted. I could just be myself. Now, obviously, there are some bad things about being homeschooled, and there are some good things, but that was one of those kind of mixed things. I could be myself, but I didn't have any experience with those social pressures. I didn't have any of that experience. So when I come into public high school as a sophomore, first of all, I don't know anybody. I pretty much have no friends at the time. So I'm pretty much going in with nothing, right? I don't have anyone to cling to because I don't know anyone. Because I wasn't used to the pressures socially, like the pressure to conform, to fit in, I had no strength against that. I pretty much just was terrified. I was completely terrified of anything socially because I wasn't used to those pressures. I just kept to myself. I almost acted like I was invisible, pretty much. The first, I would say, month, because I wasn't used to it. And the more I did that, the more regret I would feel. Because, let's say, every social interaction that I had, or most of them, I would avoid being myself. Because it's scary being yourself when you aren't used to those pressures. It's really, really scary. And the reason I felt more and more regret was because it started to feel like every single interaction I had with someone, or at least every interaction I would have with a classmate, it felt like a missed opportunity. And it was. Every single time I would hide myself from someone, I would miss out on the potential to show them who I am. And that went on for, like I said, about a month, until one day I was listening to a podcast, and it was on creativity, pretty much. It was talking about how rather than being productive, we should instead focus on being creative. Because being creative is such a unique ability for us. It's so, not easy, but it's so simple to be productive. You just get the job done. It's not easy, but it's really simple. Versus creativity, it's something that's unique to us. It's something that's unique to us as human beings. It's the ability to think outside the box, to push boundaries, to come up with new ideas, pretty much. And the podcast mentioned that the more creative you are, the higher your quality of life was. And I thought that was really interesting. And then I made a connection. I thought, wait, okay, so what is creativity? Like I said, it's pushing boundaries. It's thinking of things that have not been thought before, or kind of going past what we kind of consider as normal, or what we've already considered. And I thought, wait, okay, isn't that like controlled weirdness in a way? Isn't creativity, which is essential to the quality of life, essential to our quality of life, isn't that just being weird in a way? And then I realized, wait, okay, I need to be more weird, because the more weird I am, the better my quality of life is. Because we can only be creative if we're not afraid to be weird. And on top of that, being weird is what makes us human. It's what differentiates us from AI, for example. The reason so many of us are scared that AI is going to replace us is because we're just focused on doing productive things. We're focused on completing tasks. AI is really, really good at completing tasks. What it's not so good at is taking perspectives. It's not so good at coming up with these new ideas from a unique perspective. So we need to utilize our perspective. We need to take advantage of the fact that everyone has a unique one, because that's what makes us irreplaceable. If we weren't able to do that, we would be replaceable, right? It's about being able to have and share your perspective. I have a little analogy for this to kind of help understand a little further why I think you should be weird. So imagine you have two different scenarios. So one, let's say you're in your room. You're in your room, lying in your bed. How does that feel? It feels normal. I mean, it might be a little relaxing, but It's not special. There's nothing special about being in your room, right? Now imagine you are, let's say, exploring a mountain range. Or if you don't like mountain ranges, then you're exploring a beach cove or even a new planet. Which one's more exciting? It's the second option, right? It's the latter. And what makes that so exciting? It's because you don't know what awaits you in that mountain range or that beach cove or that new planet. You want to go out and explore those things and find out all these interesting things about this new environment. Being weird is like the internal version of being able to do that. Being able to take these new perspectives that make you human and make you unique. Being able to do that is kind of like being able to explore this new environment just inside your head. So you're not finding things out about the mountain range or the new planet. You're finding things out about yourself by being weird. And that is incredibly powerful, to be able to learn things about yourself, because then you can apply them and find things that work for you, don't work for you, how you act in relationships, and so on. In a way, like how being on top of that mountain pretty much lets you, or you feel like you can see the whole world from there, it acts the same by being weird. It acts the same internally. Being yourself, being weird, because those are essentially the same thing, opens up new mental horizons for you. And that's great. So why is it so hard? Why is it so scary to be on top of that mountain when you can see the clearest? Why do we have so little desire to be ourselves? Well, to calculate the desire to do something, it's pretty simple. You pretty much have two factors that go into it. So one, you have the motivation. This is what's getting you to want to do something, is the motivation to do it. And on the other hand, you have the inhibition. This is what gets you to not want to do it. So if the inhibition is a lot bigger than the motivation, you don't want to do it. So the reason we don't want to be weird, we don't want to be ourselves, is because in the modern day, that inhibition is really, really strong. And there are a few reasons why. Pretty much all of them have to do with modern isolation and social media. So when you have a social system like social media, for example, that values attention as a currency, like likes, that is a literal currency of attention, then the motive to get that attention is really strong. You really want to be accepted when you have a literal like number that shows this is how accepted you are. So that's part of it. And then on top of that, when you have social media and stuff like that, you're a lot more likely to be isolated, because you're usually, not always, but a lot of the time when you're on something like that, you're just in your room, you're not talking to anyone in real life. And because of that, you get lonely. So when you have that combination, pretty much, of social media, seeing attention as a currency, and being accepted is a number, and you have that with loneliness, with physical isolation, then that makes it even stronger. You want to be accepted, because when you have these feelings of I'm isolated, I feel like an outsider, that's only going to make the desire to fit in, the desire to conform to social norms, to be accepted, that's only going to make that stronger, and therefore make the desire to be yourself weaker. Now, given that imbalance of motivation and inhibition, in this case, how do we embrace being ourselves? How do we embrace that creative side, that unique side of ourselves? And how do we do it right? Well, first of all, it's hard. There is no easy way to do that. There's not going to be some magical hack that's going to instantly make you yourself. You have to slowly and consistently work on that ability like you would any other skill. And that's always going to be hard. Working on something, working on yourself, improving yourself is difficult. That's just how it is. But that doesn't mean it has to be impossible. We just have to start small. Like, you can't just go into the gym, for example, and start lifting 400 pounds because you haven't gotten to that point yet. You haven't developed yourself up to be able to do that. So just start with little self-expression things. Start with little things where you just can be yourself, and it's a little difficult, but it's not like this incredible monumental task that you have to complete. And that could be just if you have a little compliment that pops into your head. Like, let's say you like someone's outfit, just be like, "Excuse me, I like your outfit." Or if you have a question about the conversation someone's having with their friend and you don't know either of them, just say a little thing. Just pop in and be like, "Hey, I was wondering this, blah, blah, blah." And just do little things like that to just express what you're thinking. Express what you're really thinking. Don't let those arbitrary barriers of, "Oh, that's weird." Don't let that stop you from being you. Within reason, of course. I mean, I'm not gonna say all weirdness is good weirdness. There is a good weird and a bad weird. Another part of the problem is that can be kind of hard to figure out sometimes, to distinguish between what's good weird, what's truly expressing myself in a beneficial way, and bad weird, which is, kind of harming others or harming yourself. So to kind of set that line, to kind of define that line between good weird and bad weird, I'm gonna take a bit of a utilitarian perspective, because there are a lot of ways you can look at that, but I think this is a pretty simple way to understand. Everyone's weird, right? Like I said, I already told you that. Everyone is going to be weird in some way. The key is you have to be weird in a way that is expressing yourself while also not harming others. So that makes two criteria for good weird. One, it has to be expressing your unique traits. You can't be expressing the traits of something that's seen as weird just because you want to be seen as weird. That's not how that works. You can't try to stand out like that. That's not going to benefit you. You have to stand out by being yourself. And then the second criteria for good weird is, obviously, you can't be harming other people. You're not gonna go around saying creepy things to people. I think that's kind of a given. And when you use those two criteria, at least in my opinion, that's pretty much as simple as it gets. That's how you can define what weird is going to be beneficial for me and what's not going to be. You have to remember that the purpose is not to stand out. The purpose is your own personal development. It's not to get attention, because if you try to be weird to stand out, to get attention, that's completely counterproductive. That's doing the exact same thing that social media is doing, of putting attention on a pedestal. If you're doing it for attention, you're doing it wrong. That outfit that you're wearing, it can't be an outfit just to catch the eyes of other people. It has to be something that you want to wear. You want to express yourself with that. Or the belief. You can't just have radical beliefs to stand out. You have to have your own personal beliefs, which hopefully are reasonable. And with that, now that you know why you should be weird, what it means to be weird, and how to be weird in the right way, just go out and do something to express yourself. Just tell someone that thing that if something comes into your mind and you're thinking, oh, I like that about them, but it would be weird if I told them. I mean, unless it's creepy. Then just tell them. Or if you're wondering something, just ask that person. It's hard. It's always going to be hard. It was hard for me to get past social barriers. It still is hard for me. I'm still just getting used to it. Because your brain overestimates the risk. Like, significantly overestimates the risk. Which is why it's so scary. Because, I mean, seriously, what's gonna happen if you just go up to someone and ask them if they like almonds or something? I don't know. Like, yeah, that's probably not gonna be my first choice of phrases to say to people, but what's the worst that's gonna happen? They're gonna think you're a little off for 5 minutes and then they're gonna go about their day. Even if that is a potential risk, it doesn't outweigh the potential benefit. And with that, I hope you enjoyed my first video. If you want me to make more like this, then let me know. This certainly was a learning experience. Just sitting in front of a camera and talking to it for an hour. That's kind of why it got dark, is because I took so long. But yeah, have a good day.